Okay. Do you know what this is? What I'm doing here today? I'm doing a little bit of preaching on the streets, and I try to show people, that how they read things, they can misread things. And by misreading things, they could come up with a wrong, well, not only the wrong answer, they completely miss the point sometimes. Okay? Now, I have a question for you. Number one, do you believe that there is a God? Huh? No? Okay, so you say you don't believe there's a God. Okay, now, that's different than an atheist, okay? You're not an atheist. That's right. You see, there are two types of atheists, okay? Ones who say there is no God. Other people say, I do not believe there's a God. That's why I said, you're in the second category. You're simply saying, I don't believe there's a God. Maybe there's reasons. Okay, maybe there's a reason why you believe that there's no God. But the other atheist, the real atheist, says there is no God. And they're making a statement that they couldn't possibly back up. Right? Huh? Why? Well, what if I said to you, there has to be something there? Has to be. Okay, now this, for example, this microphone is material that exists. The question is, why does anything exist? Nobody. Now, you can't actually say that unless you know that for a fact. Do you know for a fact that nobody knows? How many people have you asked? How do you know that? See, it's a statement that you can't back up. Now, that's a different thing. You're not going... See, if someone makes a statement like that, nobody knows. Well, if I told you that I know, you'd say, I don't believe you, that's all. But if I said... Okay, but if I said to you, you're saying nobody knows, but I know, then we'd be in a debate as to, well, why are you saying I'm wrong? You don't know whether I'm right or wrong. But I do know this, that for anything to exist today, which there are things that exist today, then something has to always have existed. Because if there was a time when there was nothing that existed, there would be nothing today. So something or someone, either of those two is the only possibility, something or someone has always existed. Now you might say, oh, I believe that something has always existed, but not someone. And that's fine. But as long as you acknowledge there has to have been a someone or a something that has always existed, because that someone or something brought into existence everything else. Now, does that make sense? Okay, if you conclude on those 2 points, would a something have any desire, need, or purpose in producing anything else? Whereas a someone would, right? But a something, let's say a stone, a star, whatever it is, what desire, what reason would there be for that thing to say, let's produce this, let's make this, it wouldn't have any need to do that. But someone would do that. They'd say, I'm going to show what I can do. Like whenever you were a child, you might have drawn a picture and you show your mother or your father or your brother and say, look what I did. Well, I think what the Creator has done is, I'm going to show what I'm able to do. I can create worlds, galaxies, stars, anything. Look at all the creatures and things that I can do, demonstrating that He's able to bring into existence from nothing. Okay? But a something wouldn't do that. There would be no reason to do it. That's why I'm saying your only options are someone or something brought everything else into existence. Otherwise, you'd have to conclude that everything has always existed. And that's not true. Well, because scientists have looked at that possibility. Has everything that we see around us always existed? No. That's why in the 1950s, or up until the 1950s, did you know that scientists were always talking about the world and the universe and everything has always existed? Up until that time, they were saying that. But then all of a sudden they changed their tune and started talking about the Big Bang. Do you ever hear the Big Bang? You know why they came up with the Big Bang? Because they said, there has to have been a beginning. And they admit that. Okay? They're now admitting there was a beginning. We call it the beginning of our universe. They call it the Big Bang because they're acknowledging there was a starting point. They don't know how, but there was a starting point. So no, everything has not always existed, but something or someone always has, and that something or someone has brought everything as we know it into existence today. Does that make sense? The question is, do you know who he is? Do you? Yeah. So you're yes. Your friend obviously doesn't seem to accept that. Yes. Okay. All right. There's different perspectives that people have, right? When's the last time you had your eyes tested? Last week. Okay. When's the last time you had your hearing tested? Okay. I'll pretend I didn't hear that. Now, can you read what's in this box here? Because your eyes are good enough to be able to read. What does it say in the box? Okay, what is the answer? What is the one thing that answers that question? Think long and hard about it, because there is one answer which will give you the correct answer. Okay? See if you can come up with the right answer. Any answers? Come on now. Can you think of nothing at all? Nothing at all comes to mind. Nothing comes to mind at all? No? Okay. Can I ask you if you know of anything that is greater than God? What? So you'd say the answer is what? Nothing. Okay. Is there anything worse than the devil? So what's the answer? Nothing. What do the dead eat? Okay. So far, what is the answer? And if the dead eat nothing, what happens? Okay. Do you see how there's a few things there? Now, I've got one final test for you. Ready for the final test? Okay, see if you can read this and tell me what it says. Because as I said, there's a difference in perception, how people read things. What does that sentence say? What? God is. Ah, so you could read it both ways. So what do you think? Does it say God is nowhere or God is now here? Well, what do you think of that statement? Do you think that God is nowhere? Is everywhere? So you do believe in a God who is omnipresent, right? And is God right here, right now? What sort of a God is the God that is right here, right now? Maybe some people think of the God of nature, the God of creation. But is he a God that you would want to face one day? Do you think you could face this God? Say, everything be okay? Because the God that I would be referring to, the God of the Bible, is frightening. The Bible says that our God is a consuming fire. Okay? He's a holy God, and he judges sinners. Okay? So here's a good question for you. If you were to die today, for whatever reason, and you had to face this God, how do you think you'd do? Huh? Well, okay, is that because you consider yourself to be a good person? How do you think, most people say that they're a good person, but how do you test yourself whether you're a good person or not? Huh? Can you come a little closer? Here's what I'll ask you to do. Someone hold this little microphone, okay? And listen, answer these questions, okay? Would you consider yourself to be a good person? Yeah. Okay, based on what? Now hold it up so we can hear it. Okay, based on what? Because if I said, oh, I'm a good person because I haven't robbed anybody all day. Even since yesterday, I haven't robbed anybody. I'm good, you know? Or when's the last time you lied? Oh, not since like last week, you know, so I'm a good person. You see, we have a standard by which we test things, don't we? And someone could say, how do I think I'm a good person? Well, have you heard of the 10 Commandments before?
Yeah.
Do you think you've kept those?
Yeah.
Well, let's have a look at number 1. You shall have only one God. Some people might say, yeah, I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
I'm not making up my own gods, which some people do. The second commandment says you shall not make your own gods, right? Which some people do in their own mind. Number 3, don't use God's name in a reckless, blasphemous way. In other words, when people say, oh my God, or they cry out God's name and use God's name as a swear word. Ever done that?
Yeah.
All right. Number 4, it says keep one day a week holy, as in for Jewish people that would be the Sabbath day, and for Muslims it would be the Friday, and for Christians it would probably be Sunday. Do you keep aside one day where you say, I got to get to church today?
Yeah.
Okay, so the 5th commandment is a tricky one. It says, honor your mother and father. Do you think you honor your mother and father?
I try to.
Or there's the odd time that you might have said, I've really let them down?
Oh, really? Every now and again.
See, we all have done that, right? Oh man, I really didn't obey them when I was told to do this, that, and the other. Okay, the 6th commandment says you shall not murder. No, I'm guessing that we're not talking about 3 murderers here. But you know what? In the New Testament, Jesus said, whoever has hatred towards somebody in their heart, there's murder in his heart. He's a murderer at heart. Could you be like that sometimes?
No.
No such thought ever came to your mind. Okay. The 7th commandment says you shall not commit adultery, which is obviously sex outside of marriage, that sort of thing. And I'm guessing you're not in that position. Okay. But even if you had lustful thoughts towards somebody, it can be in your heart adulterous things going on there, right? And then the 8th commandment is this: you shall not steal. Let me ask you a question. Now, you can be honest. Have any of you ever stolen anything?
No.
In your entire life? Not, it could be the smallest thing. Well, we're not really referring to things like paper clips and sachets of sugar from cafes. But you've never stolen in your entire lives?
No.
Even the smallest thing?
Nothing from a shop, but maybe like something from the kitchen.
Yeah, but still, it could be something, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the 9th commandment says, you shall not bear false witness, which is telling lies. Have you ever lied before?
Yeah.
Okay. What would you call somebody who lies?
Liar.
So what are you? A liar, isn't it? If you lie, you're a liar. And the 10th commandment says this: you shall not covet. Now, you may not have come across that word, but it means desiring something that other people have and say, I've got to have that, got to have that. Like I see them with it and I want it as well. You know, when people, you know, it's like at school, you see someone, oh, they have these €200 Nike, you know, and all this stuff, and you say, flip's sake, I wish I had all this. And can be a covetous desires within it. And that's what leads some people to stealing and all kinds of things. Okay, so let's basically say this, that's only 10 of the commandments that God gives us, and there are 613 laws in the Old Testament. My question is this: if God judged you based on those commandments, do you think you would be found innocent or guilty?
I think I'd be guilty.
I think we'd all be guilty
of something.
And you see, the God of the Bible has every right, based on his law, to say, I'm judging you according to my law, and you're found guilty. And that doesn't look good for anybody then, right? Like, have you ever seen a little fly going around the house, and you just got bugged by that fly, and you just thought, I could just kill it. And it's a small little thing, but I have the power to destroy that fly. God could just do like us, like, oh, these people annoy me. Wipe them out. He doesn't. But there's coming a day when he will judge all men. The Bible says this: it is appointed unto man to die once, but after this the judgment. Okay? If God judged you and you're found guilty, how do you think things would go for you with this holy God?
Not well.
No. No. You think you're going to be all right? Do you think God is so lenient that everything's just going to be, oh, it's not a problem? Well, you know, things were so serious with God, right, that somebody's going to have to pay for the sins that we've committed. That's why Jesus Christ came into this world. You heard of that, right? And what he done is he lived a perfect life on this earth without sin. And he never broke a single one of God's commands. Yet he was crucified. What was that all about? He was dying for everyone who would ever believe in him, that their sin would be transferred to Jesus, and Jesus' perfect life would be transferred to them. So it's like this. Let's say you're standing guilty before a judge, and he says, you're guilty, and I have to condemn you according to the law. But my son here, who's done nothing wrong, he's going to come in and take your place, and he's going to be punished in your place. Is that fair?
No.
Not fair on him.
No.
And you might think, well, why would he do that for me? He doesn't even know me. And that judge saying, and I have to be the one to condemn my own son. That's not going to be easy. But he said, I'm going to do it because I want to do something for you. What would you think about the son after that? Would you think,
He's a hero.
huh?
He's a hero.
You'd like him?
Yeah.
You'd think he's a great guy? Well, here's the deal. That's exactly what Jesus Christ has done. He says, you're God's enemies. We're all God's enemies. But I'm willing to come into the world, take their place, and take the judgment that they deserve. But what will we do in response? We ought to say, thank you, Jesus. I put my trust in you. I want to live my life to serve you from this point on. I don't want to live a sinful life. I want to live a life that pleases the Father. So, anyway, I've got these to give out to people. You can take one of these. It's a call to fool. Thank you for that. And I've got more if you wish to have some. You okay? Because I've got a whole bunch of things like that in here. We've got John's Gospels. We've got, let's see what we've got. Oh, just trying to find the right. Here, hold that a second. Ah, yeah, here we go. There we go. Now you can take those away and read them. You're local guys, are you? Where are you from? What? Oh, yes. Yes, very good. In Kildare, there's a little church that you might try to find, okay? It's called Open Arms. It's actually in Newbridge. Check it out, okay? And you guys might possibly appear on a YouTube video. Look it up on YouTube called Living Rock Church Killarney. You might see it tomorrow or something like that. Thanks for your time, okay? All right, God bless.
I do.
Where are you from?
I was born in America, but I'm living in Donegal.
Living Killarney?
Donegal.
Donegal. I thought it was a northern accent style.
I kinda, yeah.
Now you spoke with a little bit of a stutter, am I right? When you were reading this.
Aye.
Was it deliberate?
No.
No. Well, he didn't read what you read, did he?
No, I didn't.
Because you read Paris in the spring. What did you read?
Paris in the spring.
Okay. Bird in the hand. And once in a lifetime, right? So see how people can miss things? Now, can you see what's in this box? How many women do you see there? Do you see any women at all? You don't see any women?
One.
One. Which one do you see?
She's kind of like looking away.
Is she a younger woman then?
Yeah.
Have a look at her necklace and pretend that that necklace is somebody's mouth. Ugh. Could there be another woman there?
Can you see that? That's like the big nose.
Yes. You see how perception, people can see things differently depending on how the angle, or maybe someone giving you one little piece of information can change your perception on things, right? Do you drive?
No.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask you a question based on your hearing. Now, as you may have guessed, I'm out here on the streets doing a little bit of preaching. Do you know what I mean by preaching? Like giving people the gospel. Okay? Do you see any connection between this and preaching the gospel?
No.
That somebody could have the wrong perspective or could not see something when they're reading it, and they could say, I've read that 100 times and I never saw that. See how that? Now, what I have here, these are the Gospels of John, there are many people who have never in their lifetime ever read anything of a biblical nature. Do you understand? So I have to ask you a couple of questions, okay, real quickly. You ready for it? What do you think is the overall message of the Bible? Have you ever read any of it? Never? Well, I want to give you one of these to start with, okay? You can have this. This is not a Bible, but it is the Gospel of John, which is from the Bible. And there are 66 books, but this is just one little tiny one that you can read, okay? So then when someone does ask you, you can say, no, I haven't read the Bible, but I have read a bit of it, okay? And you can start reading that, okay? I have to ask you this, since you're from Donegal, do you have in a nutshell, just a brief sentence, tell me, what do you think is the message of the Bible? And I'm asking that because some people read it and judge a book by its cover, don't they? They go, I already know what it's all about, but they haven't read it. Okay? Or they might have been to church and they might have picked up some bits and pieces. So what I'm asking is, what do you think is the general, in a nutshell, overall message?
It's a tricky one.
Is it a tricky one?
I wouldn't know myself. I haven't read it.
Okay, that makes sense. It would be good to start reading something like that, because if it was really what it claims to be, God's Word, then it's God communicating a message to us. And it'd probably be good to read it and say, well, what's it saying? If I was to condense it, say you were to come along to church, I would say this: God the Creator saves sinners. Okay, that's it. In 3 words. God, the Creator, saves sinners. I'm a sinner. I think we all are. Okay, but there's a salvation plan which God says, I'm going to rescue you. Death is not the end. Death is not the end. Okay. Do you think death is the end for people?
No.
Come on, you must have an answer here. What do you think happens when someone dies? Really? Just that's it? Like you turn off the computer, pull out the plug, and that's it. And there's no memories at all. It's all gone. Nothing happens afterwards. Well, I'm guessing that you're basing that not on experience, right? But maybe have you been to a funeral before? And you think that's it. That's it. They get put in the ground or they get cremated. Is that the end? You don't know that, do you? But you're assuming that it looks like that's the end. But you know what? Let me wrap this up really quickly, okay? There is a scripture in the Bible that says this: it is appointed unto men to die once. Which is true. We do experience that. It says it is appointed unto men to die once, but after this, the judgment. Imagine if you said, I thought that was the end. What? Wait, there's more? Now on to part 2. You know, there's a sequel. What? What is it? Well, yes, this is not the end. You are not just a body, because there's something inside you called your soul or spirit. And when the soul or spirit leaves the body, it's not going to die. It's going to appear before God, and you will be judged. Unless, of course, you realize that if I was to face the judgment of God, I'm doomed. And I had better seek to get right with God now before it's too late. Does that make sense? That's the whole point. God sent Jesus Christ to save us from the consequences of our sins. Okay, you can give me that back. Thank you for being an active participant. And by the way, you were being recorded. Did you know that? If you want to see the video and how you were presented, you can watch it on YouTube. Okay, look up Living Rock Church Killarney, okay? Thanks. So what does it say in each of the 3 triangles?
Carrot in the spring, bird in the hand, once in a light.
Now that sounds like you've got a bit of a stutter there. Am I right? Yeah? No, would you have read it the same? Would you have read it the same? I find
The people only read wonder.
well, yeah, most people read Paris in the Spring, Bird in the Hand, Once in a Lifetime. And if I ask them, hey, have you heard those phrases before? They say, yeah, they're so well known. I said, that's the point. Because they're so well known, maybe you didn't really read it. And I'm using that like as a springboard to sort of say, well, I'm out here preaching on the streets, doing a bit of gospel preaching, because there's people who have said, oh, I've read it before. I said, well, maybe there's bits you've missed. Maybe you're missing the main point even, you know. And then we have another one here. Okay, look at this one. Now, this may be a little trickier. Okay. Can you read what's written? Now, I know when someone's talking, it distracts you, right? And that's maybe deliberate. Who knows? But finished files are the results of years of scientific study combined with. And by the way, I had to change the sign. These used to say on it, IQ test. I changed it to fun test. No, but the reason I did that is because I had so many people coming up to me and saying, are you a Scientology person? I said, no. And they said, okay, I better change that. So you read, and of course with the science thing as well, maybe that's what they were doing. Okay, so as you read that sentence, can you see how many times the letter F appears? 5. That's more than average. What? What?
In the box.
Yeah, oh yeah, just inside here. Yeah, how many do you count?
2, 3,
And you?
4, 5.
Okay. Well, most people say 3 because they miss those ones, and there are in fact 5. Yeah,
But it might be 6 then. Is it 6 or 5?
there are 6.
Yeah.
So obviously, whatever one you missed, I don't know which one you missed now, but yeah. But I don't know if you're Christian people. Yeah. So because it's hard enough to get people to stop as it is, but you can see how we could transition from that to sharing the gospel. Many different ways of getting there. And if they get put off, well, so that's okay. It's not my job to save people, you know. And we just preach from a reformed point of view, and that seems to be my best approach. Just get people out there and talk to them, and there you go. And what part of a church are you? Are you involved in a church in Wexford or?
Yeah.
In a live church.
Live church in school.
Oh, okay. Never heard of it, but Life
Alive.
Church. Okay.
Yeah. We enjoy it there.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. And what kind of a church would that be? Pentecostal or charismatic or?
They told me another one which I've never heard of. It's like something
Evangelical?
that one.
Evangelifish?
I don't know what that.
Well, it means that they're evangelistic in that they either go out on the street like what we're doing, or they might preach evangelistically a preaching message from the pulpit. Maybe that's what. But it's just, a common way of saying non-denominational or non-Catholic, whatever. But it's evangelical, preaching the gospel.
Yeah.
Well, what would you have been back in South Africa then?
I was reformed.
Dutch Reformed? Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a shift in a lot of people toward Reformed theology. So there's been a pendulum swing, and so we're trying to meet somewhere in the middle where we have our Reformed theology, but we do also believe in the charismatic experience that as long as it's according to the Bible, hey, let it rip.
Yeah. Charismatic, I would say, as a line. But we are.
So, sorry, what's your church?
It's called Living Rock Church, Killarney. This man behind you might be recording a video for our YouTube channel. If it's good, if the quality is good enough. See, sometimes we have to edit. Oh, that would never work. But we're not just doing it for the camera. Obviously, we talk to as many people as we can, give the gospel to people, and give people John's Gospels and something to take away with them. I've tried various things over the years. In fact, as a Pentecostal years ago, I would have gone out and laid hands on the sick and prayed for sick people to be healed on the streets. And if someone came up today and said, "Could you pray for me?" I'd say, "I certainly could." Would I guarantee your healing? I wouldn't say I can guarantee it, but I can certainly pray and believe God for that for you. But it's very good, and people are quite open toward the gospel. Some people, it's all about our approach. I think if we stood here and give the old, "Oh, said the Lord," or "You must turn from your," and that's fine. I'm not against that, but it doesn't seem to be heeded much, because we're like, if we're talking down to people, preaching at them, it doesn't seem to be as effective to me as engaging them in conversation and saying, "Okay, got any questions? We can maybe try to talk about it and go from there." So who knows?
That's a good approach.
Yeah.
Yes. And we've got all kinds of video. I've only done 3 videos so far of on the streets, and some of them are okay because you really engage with some people. You can have a look on it. Look up in YouTube. Just look up Living Rock Church Killarney. All right.
And come into your live sometime. We'll say hi.
Well, if I was in the area, like, yeah,
Oh, when you are.
yeah. How long have you all been living in Ireland?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, you're enjoying it so far. The weather.
We've got good people.
Yeah.
Yeah, good people there.
Very good.
Very welcoming.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That helps.
Very good. Okay. Well, have a great trip.
Thank
And,
you.
and may the Lord bless you on your travels.
Thank you very much.
Okay. God bless. See ya. Bye. Now, can you come a little closer? 3. Okay. Hold this microphone. There. Hold that. You may be being recorded, for all you know. Okay. So you said there's 3 F's.
Well, actually, that if you're talking about the whole sign, there's
No.
more than 3 F's.
No. I'm only talking about the
All right, yeah.
the bit in the middle. The paragraph in the
Yeah,
middle.
there's 3 F's,
Well, you're wrong.
probably.
Okay, see, if you look here, I'm sure you'll. Now, the average person does say 3, but there are in fact 6.
Okay.
If I showed you the 6, I know which ones you missed, by the way.
Yeah.
Probably didn't see that one, or that one, or
Uh,
that one. Am I right?
yeah.
No.
Because it's not at the start of the word. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. The fact is, people read things and don't see things that are there. Okay.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? I'm sure you've seen a lot of people out on the streets of Glasgow preaching the gospel. Am I right?
Oh yeah.
Does this sound like a gospel? Well, I am a gospel
No, it's
preacher. Well, what's the
An
connection?
Orthodox gospel.
What is the difference? Here is this. That there's a lot of people have read things all their lives, heard things all their lives, but didn't see something, like didn't see that, or missed something that was being said. And I'm using that to transition to show how maybe it's true when it comes to the gospel. Maybe I was in church all my life and I never heard that.
Yeah.
Or,
So it's the concept of what you can't see, you don't believe, which is what most
Yeah,
people do.
exactly.
But I'm not that way. I
Okay.
believe in much higher things than just
very good.
your average stuff, Because there's much more to life than just waking up.
Of course there is.
Bigger things at play.
Okay. Now, you probably are in a rush, so I'm not going to hold you long, but I don't know if have you ever read the gospel
Well,
before?
I've got a Bible in my possession at home
Okay.
somewhere.
What would you say, if you were, in a nutshell, what would you think is the message of the Bible? I'm not talking about like from cover to cover, give me like a 10-page essay, but say you were to put it in a nutshell, like what do you say is the message? What do you think you're gathering from that?
Well, I know that the message in entirety for the world is love and be loved. And that's how things move on much better.
That's the message of the world.
Well, I think that's what helps the world.
Okay, do you think that's the message that comes across in the Bible, though?
Well, there's many different things that come across. It depends. It's the reader. It's however many F's they see. It's all
Okay,
about
it's how one reads
what they
it.
see. It's a perception.
So if I was to read from Genesis, I see creation, then I see something going terribly wrong, and then judgments, God condemning sin, people dying all of a sudden, you got sickness, disease, trouble all of a sudden. Then you've got, in the middle of the Bible, you got Christ being prophesied. There's going to be a Christ, there's going to be a Christ, there's going to be a Christ, he's going to come, he's going to save people. Then in the beginning of the, 2,000 years ago, Jesus turns up and he says, I'm the Christ, and he works miracles. He talks about forgiveness. He talks about how God's going to do this, that, and the other. But then he gets crucified by his own people. And then he rises from the dead. And then the gospel goes out into all the world. And that gospel seems to be quite simple. believe on Jesus Christ, and you will not suffer the judgment of God. See, so it's not just a matter of, oh, sounds like a love message. There is love there, obviously, because, well, if God is loving enough to say, I should judge you, but I'm not going to judge you if Jesus Christ already took the judgment in your place, then why would I judge you? So there's a message of love in there, but it's not like, the apostles, Paul, Peter, and everything, didn't walk into every city and go, hey, everybody, got great news for you, all about love. It's all about love. They didn't do that. They preached, you need to turn from your idols, you need to turn from your wicked ways, your sinful ways, your selfish ways, and you need to get right with God. So that's what they preached. And they preached the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Okay, so your comments on that, what do you think of that message?
What you explained
Yes.
of what
Yes.
Bible or these
Yeah.
certain Bibles are about.
Yeah. Have you ever come across that message in the Bible?
I'll be honest, I've not read it properly to really give you an understanding, to be honest, but
Okay.
that's fair enough. Like, some people do, some people don't. I mean, from the different Bibles and the different meanings and what it's came across, it seems like there was definitely a journey there, but it also seems a bit up in the air. These certain things happen. As you explained, the first one, the second one, the third one, seems a bit like, up in the air, as I said. So,
What does that mean, even up in the
maybe
air?
people were confused.
Yeah. Okay.
Over time, and maybe that's why they crucified him, because they were like, well, this guy's saying this, saying that, doing this, doing that. It's like he's not living up to what he said in the first one, and then he's now judging people or whatever said. So it could, maybe that's the case.
Well, the fact of the matter is, according to the testimony of the eyewitnesses and the records, is that it wasn't just everybody. It was mainly the religious leaders who instigated his crucifixion, because they said, well, we want rid of this guy. We have an organized religion here, and who's this guy?
People want control. They don't want to be controlled.
Yeah, okay. So he comes along and he says, you don't want to be like, he says, don't be like these hypocrites, these Pharisees, okay, who give an outward show of that they're holier than everybody else, but in actual fact, they're not. They're just like graves that are dead. There's death in there, but outwardly they look nice. If you go to the cemetery, you might say, oh, what a lovely big monument, but it's in there, there's dead bones.
It's the way you see it. It's all perception.
Right. So let's say his message is completely different from what they're expecting, and yet actually the prophecies of the Bible were, he's going to come, he's going to set people free, he's going to do all these things, and he's going to suffer as well. And they didn't realize the bit where it says he's going to suffer, and we're going to be the ones who cause him to suffer. We're all fulfilling prophecy. Okay, so boils down to this. If you were to die today, what's your name?
Ryan.
Ryan?
Yeah.
Ryan? My name's Michael. Okay. If you were to die today, what do you think happens next?
Nothing's proven yet. So it's like, again, it's whatever you believe
Okay.
in.
Right now, if your body just stopped functioning and you died, you'd fall to the
Definitely
ground.
feels like I've not had a coffee yet.
This time of day?
I'm in a band. We do a lot of performances.
Okay.
Not getting to sleep too late. Waking up early. So.
Okay. If you were to die right now, your body would probably fall to the ground. Am I right?
Yeah.
Right. You wouldn't still be standing up. But is there more to you than just the outward shell of a
soul?
Yeah, the soul, or
Your
whatever you want to
energy,
call it.
your
Yeah.
vibration, yeah.
What happens to that once?
It lives on through different dimensions.
Okay.
Energy's never created, never diminished. It's
Okay.
a thing that lives on.
So okay. Let's say that a lot of people, when asked that question, they say, "I don't know," and they're assuming a lot of things. Some people assume reincarnation.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't assume if you haven't seen it.
Well, even to test the theory of it doesn't work out. I've gone through that with a lot of people. But let's say, for example, I'll give you one view, and this is the biblical view, okay?
Yeah.
It is appointed, which is an interesting word that's used. It is appointed unto men to die once, but after this, the judgment. Let's think about that for a second.
After this, the judgment, did you say?
Yeah, yeah. So first of all, an appointed. It is appointed.
Is that about like your ego?
I think it's the day that there's an actual physical day, time that you're going to die. Now, Do we have any control over that? I don't know. But I do know that one day we're appointed to die. Most people only die once. Okay? So let's say if that's true, 10 out of 10 people die. We all become part of the ultimate statistics. Therefore, if it's true what it says there, it is appointed unto men to die once, then what about the next part, which says this, and after this, the judgment. Some people think, well, I can live whatever way I like and nothing's going to happen to me. And so they can do that because they think, who's going to chase me down? I might as well do whatever I can.
Well, is it about the sins that you have in play while you're here? And if you're taking them with you, then it then becomes the judgment.
Well, if you were judged based upon your life on earth, how do you think you do? And who's the judge? This is another question.
Exactly.
Let's say the judge happens to be a holy God, like the Bible portrays, a holy and upright and just God who will not tolerate any wrongdoing. And he says, I'm going to judge you. Let's see how you do.
Yeah.
Do you think you would pass the test? Do you think would you consider yourself to be a good person, for example?
Yeah.
Okay. On what basis would you say that you're a good person?
I do a lot for people that I don't need to.
Okay.
I put other people's feelings before mine. But yeah, I also have other downfalls like anyone else.
Okay.
But I lean on more of that than I do the negatives.
Some people, if you know, when it comes to something like bad breath, okay, it's easier to detect in other people than in yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And so we can say, I think I'm a good person compared to everybody else. You know, I think.
Well, I don't say that because
I'm not saying you're saying that.
But I know what you're saying. You're saying it as a broad thing.
Well, let's say someone says, I think I'm a good person because I've got my own standards.
Yeah.
Then a thief could say, I'm a good guy because I haven't stolen as much as the other guy, and I've been good for the last year.
Perception.
Right.
It's all perception.
Now let's say that the standard by which God judges, according to what I've read anyway, is that he uses his... We've got the 10 Commandments. You've probably heard of them, right? The first one says you shall have only one God. Some people say, well, I do only have only one God. Okay, so maybe you're a Muslim, a Jew, whatever. They say, I only believe in one God. But the second commandment says, you shall not make for yourself any idols. So that one God suddenly becomes the God that I made myself. I have an image of what I think God's like, my own perception of God, right? I've created a God which is kind of easy, light going on sin. He's not too bothered about wrongdoing. And so they've created a God in their own image. But that's why the Bible says don't make any idols. The third one says do not use God's name in a blasphemous way. You know, calling God's name out for no...
God.
Yeah, oh my God. We wouldn't even use your mother's name or someone else's name in that way. The fourth commandment says keep one day a week holy. The fifth commandment says honor your mother and father. Have we always obeyed and honored our mother and father? Not always. I certainly haven't.
Can I stop you for one second? I need to go.
Oh, sorry. You can take one of those miniature ones as well. And okay, Ryan, sorry. Very good. Look out for your YouTube debut.
On this.
No, you can look it up it's on Living Rock Church Killarney if you look on YouTube. You might see it. Thanks for your time.
Cheers.
Okay. All right.
3?
Very good. Now, the average person does say 3. What did you say?
3.
Okay, the average person does say 3. If I was to tell you that there were 6, what would you say?
Yeah, I see it.
You see it?
I kind of... Wait, hold on. I don't see it. Oh, wait, you're counting.
1, 2, 3. Did you see those 3?
No.
No. Okay, now the next question on this reading, this is a reading test. You ready? Stand back a little bit now. What does it say in each of the 3 triangles? Read them out loud.
Paris in the spring, bird in the hand, once in a lifetime.
Now, is that correct?
Yeah.
Are you sure it doesn't say Paris in the spring?
It does.
Bird in the hand, once in a lifetime?
Oh my God. Your brain just reads what it wants to read.
Okay. Do you see this picture?
Yeah.
What do you see there?
I see an old woman.
Do you see an old woman?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you see?
A lady with her head
Yeah.
turned.
I saw that too. I saw 2 of them.
There are 2 women, right?
Yeah.
And you see the young and the old.
I see both, yeah.
Okay. Some people, they you know, it's how you perceive things are differently.
Yeah.
You know, and so what I'm trying to do here today, okay, is doing a bit of gospel preaching. Do you see the connection?
Yeah.
What's the connection?
It's like there's two. Everyone has two sections of something. Some people will see stuff in the line of God or like in the gospel.
Right.
More will go stray away from that and see differently.
Yeah, and some people could read the same literature and go, I totally did not get that.
And some people will take it in.
Is that not so?
Yeah.
And so isn't that an interesting perception that if I was to ask you, have you ever read anything from the Bible at all? What would you say?
From the Bible, like
Anything whatsoever, like a passage or a chapter or a few verses here.
do you know? Hold on now. Really going back and thinking.
I mean, say for example, the
Love thou neighbor.
okay, that's somewhere in there. Yeah.
Somewhere.
Okay, like this is the Gospel of John.
Yeah.
People could read that. It's very small,
Yeah.
and then they could say, how come I never heard that? Oh, by the way, that's in Spanish. That probably wouldn't be much use to you. But this one here is in English. Here you go. Now, say for example, right? If I was to ask you this question, what do you think have you gathered over the years, maybe? Do you think is the message of Christianity? What do you think is the message of Christianity?
Of Christianity.
Yeah.
The message of Christianity.
Do you know what I mean by
suppose
Christianity?
it's like kind of. I don't know how to put it.
Like, do you think that Jesus said, here's my plan. I'm going to come to earth and start a new religion because they're short of them. And, you know, we're so desperately in need of religion. I'll start a new one with my own name. And it's all about coming to church. And people will come there for an hour and they'll sit there and they'll fall asleep and that'll be it, really.
Yeah.
You know, is that what it's all about?
No.
What do you think is the general overall message that the Bible presents or the Gospels present?
I suppose it's kind of like to always show kindness. Like Jesus himself, he always showed kindness. Like there when he helped when he helped the sick, really.
Hello, Sue. How are you doing?
Tell my husband you're here.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
In the Bible, if I remember right, you can go back. You can go. Convert you.
you'll have to speak up. I can hardly hear you.
Trying to convert you. Baptist church.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, she's hit on something very important. You see, if you were to boil it down, okay, the overall picture is God saves sinners. Okay, so now we have to ask ourselves, well, what do you mean by God? The Creator. Well, who is this Creator? He's a holy God.
Yeah.
But then He makes man. Man is made in God's image, but man has fallen. He's sinned. He's done wrong, and so God really is. There's going to be a judgment for all people who've done wrong, but God's rescue plan is that He did something about that. God sent Jesus into the world, okay, to rescue us from God Himself.
Yeah.
Right? That's amazing. Jesus Christ lived on earth a perfect life, not just to set an example and say, here's how you should live, love people, do nice, all of those things. He wouldn't. That's not just what it's all about. He also died and rose again. Why did He die? He was being punished as if He's the sinner. When He wasn't the sinner, He was taking the place of sinners, right? So that they wouldn't have to face the judgment of God because He faced it for them. So those who put their trust in Jesus Christ can say, I'm not going to face the judgment of God because I have trusted in Christ and He's took the judgment for me. Okay?
Yeah.
No. Very good.
Okay, I'll get that back.
You can keep that if you like.
Nah, it's grand.
Okay.
I'm going to the carnival and be lost.
Oh, don't forget my microphone.
Oh yeah.
We should have given it to this lady here because you're very quiet spoken. Oh, you too. What's your name?
Christine.
Christine. And you're local people?
They're local enough, like.
Huh?
Local enough. We wouldn't live around here, but we live downstairs.
Okay. By the way, just in case you're wondering, who are we? I'm pastoring a church in Killarney that meets in the Mon School. Just in case you wonder, where? The Mon School. Okay. Okay, thanks for stopping.